Hello, this is Kyle Maxey presenting for SDSU's MAT program. This is Summer LD 570. I really wanted to do a screencast for my final implementation plan because as part of my idealist approach, I think that screencasting is super effective at both providing visual models and sort of a digital connection to processes that my students typically struggle with as a special ed teacher. So right off the bat, going into the philosopher section, I kind of wanted to consider who I am supposed to be in my classroom. I have a kind of a unique role in that as a special ed teacher in an inclusive setting, as well as the EL coordinator, I'm oftentimes in a position where I'm collaborating with general education teachers, or I'm in the classroom assisting with my students and other students. So I wanted to consider what my role is in the classroom in reflection of the articles that we read and the different roles I think that teachers should play. And the first one I think is a learner. I think that as teachers, we need to be the learner, the designer, and the model for our students, because they're in a place where if, in other traditional settings, they may have been in a teacher-centric classroom. And I think that a student-centered classroom is the best approach when you're trying to get true growth from your students. And I guess the question I was considering is that how can I guide students while modeling the sort of problem identification that leads to self-discovery? In reading about the importance of problem identification, and especially in the business model, I thought that it was an interesting point of view to shift away from problem solving to problem identification. And I think that this quote that I pulled from the article says a lot. Educators can also take a lesson from the commercial world, namely teaching the complicated skill of finding problems. And in the problem-based learning setting, my question is, how can I guide my students through meaningful problems in interactions, in set them up to find a problem themselves that they want to solve. So moving on to the concept of apprenticeship and being a master doer, I felt like that was also a pretty meaningful shift in pedagogy and philosophy for myself, because I think that we as educators and as master doers, we also need to be master learners and show our students that we're also actively seeking knowledge through different means, one of which being technology. I think that developing 21st century literacy skills is incredibly important, and I think that our students need to see us learning how to expand our networks and expand our communities through Twitter, Google Plus communities, Skype, and reaching out to the experts that previously weren't available to us in traditional settings without the use of our networks and technology. I think we need to work on modeling to our students what a learner looks like and what a learner does in the classroom, and never stop showing them that as educators, we're also learning with our students instead of just teaching them stuff that we already know. And I think that in itself leads to higher levels of metacognition, because in essence, when students are presented with a context in which they can suss out a problem and then find a solution, it helps inspire deeper thinking into how they found the problem and how they're going to solve it. And I think through reflection, metacognition can be achieved in that sense, to figure out how we learn as learners. And then lastly, I wanted to think about innovation. In reading The Innovator's Mindset, I think that the main thing I took away was that to be an innovator is to create something new and better. And I think that I'm trying to be, as an educator, newer and better. And I think that looking at SAMR and 4Cs and the depth of knowledge charts, taking these components into consideration when approaching any project, or even being critical of my coworkers' projects, is extremely valuable. I think that these checklists are available to us as educators, and we should be utilizing them to really measure the efficacy of our projects in our schoolwork. Moving on to Idealist, what I think that 21st century classrooms should look like, and I want to say that I think it should extend to home as well, is that I think that primarily our students, we all need internet. Our students need internet at home, and I know this is a huge equity issue. And I hope that in the decades to come, that won't be a question anymore, and there'll be computers in everyone's homes, and everyone will have internet access. Because, as previously mentioned, the networks that we're utilizing are incredibly important at both expanding our access to experts, but also expanding our audience. I also think that 21st century classrooms should measure literacy by any means, and that could be through Twitter, through Instagram, through texting. A lot of my students that suffer from disabilities that really prevent them from expressing themselves in writing thrive when it comes to writing, music, or when it comes to writing texts, or posting pictures on Instagram. And I think that measuring literacy by any means, especially within the digital context, is crucial. And then that kind of relates to students being able to choose the ways in which they demonstrate their mastery of concepts, and their mastery and understanding of skills and techniques that we work on in school. And that again is related to assessment. And as a pragmatist, looking at what I can accomplish in the next year, I have a couple ideas. I think that as a special education teacher, I wanted to take the lessons I've learned about innovation and technology from this course and really start to analyze how I can make myself more effective in the workplace and make myself a better educator. I'd love to start working on, or at least employing, app-based solutions for home, and that could be the reminder services to do homework. That could be creating, the means to which I can communicate with my students in an appropriate manner at home to help remind them with homework, or help provide them with resources on the fly. I even toyed with the idea of creating a private Instagram that had, certain students subscribed to me and could look at their homework. I need to figure out how to make that appropriate for home. I'd also like to develop either develop or utilize app-based service logs and progress monitoring for my special ed students. We're required by law to document the service times we provide to our students, as well as monitor the progress of their goals. And I think that utilizing an app, especially in an inclusive setting where we're constantly moving in and out of the classroom and working with students, is extremely applicable and innovative. I'd also like to disseminate the digital tools, like screencasting, that I've learned through this course to my general education teachers that I collaborate with, because I think that there's always room to improve upon the delivery of information, especially via technology and digital means. Sort of reminded me about flipping the classroom, in that I could help work with my general education teachers to create screencasts that help explain processes or techniques. That way, there's less time spent in the classroom teaching these skills and techniques, and more time doing and learning. And then lastly, I think I want to pursue admin support for alternative assessments. Like I mentioned in the idealism category, I think that students should be assessed based on their formative growth and their ability to express themselves by any means. And that could be, like I said, texts or music or Instagram posts, or however students are able to communicate that they understand something. So I think that overall, my implementation plan, and this process has been very reflective, and I look forward to seeing 21st century classrooms evolve and grow to incorporate more digital tools and technologies. Thank you.